Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with a box that still exists. These are so remarkable when you find them. This really does exist. There's like lots of them available on Amazon, and it's really worth considering. It's the Richard Strauss Complete Tone Poems and Concertos, with quite an assortment of people performing them. And I want to go through this. It's 13 CDs. That's bigger than the Kempe set of Strauss tone poems of 9 CDs. And I want to sort of catch up with this one because we have to do a lot of Strauss. I mean, if you're watching this in the year 14,373, we've already done the Strauss. But, you know, there was that one that just came out with, you know, what's his name in Boston? His name I never remember. That's the impression he makes on me. The current conductor in Boston, Andres Nelson's, that's his name. Yeah, he just did a Strauss box, and there are like other Strauss boxes buzzing around, and I would like to sort of get caught up with some of them. Most of them are quite good, by the way. There's nothing wrong with any of them because Strauss, you know, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. Anyway, here is the box. Let's see what's in it, shall we? It's a very good box, by the way. This is really the one that I think offers the most competition to Kempe because you get extra repertoire besides just the tone poems. But let's look and see what they are. First of all, for the tone poems, you get mostly the Herbert Blomstedt San Francisco performances, which are marvelous. I wish we had all of them. So disc 1 is Zarathustra and Ein Heldenleben. There you go. And it's Zarathustra and Ein Heldenleben, and it doesn't tell me who's doing it because you have to go all the way. There we go. Yeah, down there. All right. So it's with San Francisco and Blomstedt, and they're wonderful performances. They really, really are. It's an Ein Heldenleben that's sort of like Heitinks in that it isn't, you know, there's no attempt made to take it so seriously that it becomes tedious. It moves along, and it's wonderfully well played and recorded. Then you've got Don Juan, which is lovely, and the Alpine Symphony. Now, these are all with the San Francisco Symphony and Herbert Blomstedt, and they're just first class. We've talked about some of them before, you know, in discussing Strauss tone poems, and you've mentioned some of them in comments, so I don't need to go into them in more detail other than to say that they're first class. Then we've got Macbeth. Now, that's the Detroit Symphony in Dorati, which is very good. He did also quite a bit of Strauss tone poems for Decca in digital sound, and he liked to do unusual stuff too. So, you know, Macbeth, it's typical that he would have it. It does not beat my favorite one, which is Jarvis, but it's perfectly fine. And then we've got Death and Transfiguration and Metamorphosen, again with Blomstedt. Great Death and Transfiguration and a great Metamorphosen. And then Don Quixote. Yeah, Quixote. This is, let's see, Don Quixote and Till Eulenspiegel and the Romance in F. Now, these are with Heinrich Schiff and Dietmar Hallmann. Heinrich Schiff cello and Dietmar Hallmann on viola. This is with the Gewandhaus and Kurt Masur. And they're also quite good. I do wish they had used Blomstedt's Till Eulenspiegel, which I find a little more humorous and lighter than Mazur's, but they're still very, very good. And that's, you know, they should have just done all the Blomstedt stuff, thrown it in the box, right? I mean, you know, don't overthink it. Just do the right thing. But this Don Quixote is very, very nice, so that's good. Then we have Alcitalian. I love Alcitalian. I really do. It's a beautiful, underrated work. It's really a symphony in 4 juicy movements. It's beautiful. Anyway, this is the Cleveland Orchestra and Ashkenazi. Very, very good performance. There are many good performances of it, though. Then we've got the Sonatina, the Happy Workshop for 16 winds, the Sonatina number 2. Now, this is the famous performance I've just talked about with the Netherlands Wind Ensemble. This is where it was hiding all these years before Australian Eloquence released the Netherlands Wind Ensemble box. Well, we'll see what else is in here. Then we've got the Sinfonia Domestica and the Paragon, the piano work to the Sinfonia Domestica for piano left hand. This is with Gary Grafman, which is wonderful. He was a brilliant pianist. He plays it wonderfully with the Vienna Phil and Andre Previn. Now, you may think that the Sinfonia Domestica is a piece of junk, and I wouldn't argue with you, but still, it's nice to have. It's, you know, perfectly fine. And Previn is his usual slightly snoozy self at this phase in his career, but, you know, it's okay. Sounds good. Vienna Philharmonic. And the Paragon with Gary Grafman. How nice to see him working again. Then we've got Josef's Legenda, the whole thing. See, they don't tell you symphonic poem. It's not a symphonic poem, it's ballet. And it's with the Staatskapelle Dresden in Sinopoli. It's one of the great Josef's legendas out there. It's really good. Really, really good. Now we start to get concertos. Horn concertos 1 and 2 with the Mondschein music, the moonlight music from Capriccio. This is with Barry Tuckwell, the Royal Philharmonic in Ashkenazi, and you know they're going to be perfectly good, and they are. The Sextet from Capriccio and the Burlesque for piano with Jean-Yves Thibaudet and the Gewandhaus in Blomstedt, which is first class all the way. The violin concerto, the oboe concerto, and the duet concertino. This is also Ashkenazi with the Radio Symphony Orchestra Berlin. And that's with, Boris Belkin, violin, Gordon Hunt, oboe, Dmitri Ashkenazi, we know him, his son, clarinet, and Kim Walker, bassoon. So those are fun to have. And then we've got the Serenade for 13 wind instruments and the Suite for 13 wind instruments and the Sonatina from an Invalid's Workshop. This is all the Netherlands wind ensemble stuff with Edo de Waard, which is as great as it will ever get in that music. And then we've got, this is so much more than what it says here. They really should say, complete tone poems, concertos, and other good stuff. So you've got the Dance Suite after Couperin, yay, and the Bourgeois Gentilhomme Suite. This is with the Sinfonietta de Montreal and Charles Dutoit. And these are lively, charming performances I love that music. Bourgeois Gentilhomme is fabulous. The Dance Suite after Couperin is just marvelous. It should be as popular as like Respighi's Ancient Airs and Dances and all those other arrangements by Stravinsky, but because it's Strauss and because it's yummy, people say it must not be worth listening to, but it is. It's terrific. Then we've got the Concert Suite from Der Rosenkavalier, the Fantasy from Die Frau Neuschatten, both with the Detroit Symphony and Dorati. That was like a classic disc. Here's where it turns up. And we've got Salome's Dance of the Seven Veils with the Cleveland Orchestra and Ashkenazi. And then the Rosenkavalier waltz sequences 1 and 2 with the Gewandhaus and Herbert Blomstedt. The Concert Suite from Rosenkavalier is Dorati's own arrangement. And it's wonderful. It's 25 minutes of music out of the opera. So it's wonderful to have that and the 2 dance suite, the waltz sequences with Blomstedt. And finally, on CD 13, you get the Festlius Preludium, the festive prelude for like lots and lots of brass and organ. It's 12 minutes of basic junk. It's really not very good. But, there it is, with Wolfgang Meyer organ in the Berlin Philharmonic, Karl Böhm. That's a classic version of junky music. And the Festmusik der Stadt Wien with the Philip Jones Brass Ensemble. And finally, the Panathenaeenzug. Oh, I like the Panathenaeenzug. That's his really best work for piano left hand. It's called Symphonic Etudes in the Form of a Passacaglia for piano left hand. It's a wonderful work. And it's with Anna Gorari, the Bamberg Symphony, and Karl Anton Rickenbacher, which they licensed. They licensed it from either Virgin or from Koch. I forget where it was originally showed up. But it's in that that unknown Strauss box, which they've also put out. And it's all that stuff, the 2 piano pieces, those are also in that Kempe set. So yeah, you got to have the Kempe set. But this is marvelous. This is marvelous. It's a wonderful, big, inexpensive, box of Strauss. 13 fabulous CDs, top-notch performances. I don't think there's anything in here that isn't really, really good. And it's still around. So if you're a Strauss fan and you've got Kempe and you need to have some contrast or variety in your life and you really want to hear other people do some of the same stuff, here you go. Plus more. Plus more, all those opera fantasies and other things. Oh, it's just great to have. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Really, it's almost his complete orchestral music. Almost. Not quite. Nothing is ever quite complete with Strauss. But there you go. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.